Welcome everyone to our class in Hahigayon. As is usual, we just give a little orientation here just to get us back into the context of where we are. The Hahigayon first explained to us concepts. It's what he called the basic Hahigayon. And we're in the middle section now where he divides the study of Hahigayon, of logic, into three parts. The first part is Bir Hashemos, which we accomplished. The terms, what categories terms can fall into, whether they're causes, results, wholes, parts, etc. The second section, which Hashem we were able to accomplish, was his explanation of various types of statements. And now we're into one of the big workhorses of learning, which is the syllogism. The syllogism is when we combine two statements together and we can then produce a third statement. Okay, before we were just handling in single statements and their relationship to other statements and their inferences, but now we want to combine statements and see what results we get. And this combination can go on for a long chain. And it's very important to understand how every argument is based on certain premises that lead to conclusions. So we have to make sure that the premises are true and for the conclusions to be true. So let's go into our paragraph. Chapter 20 says the following. Hekish hu it's the combination of two premises, mumetos, that are true, v'holid mehem tolad amitis, and from those two true premises there will be a production of a true conclusion. Okay, so we said that not every two statements that you put together will produce a valid conclusion. Only a certain set will. And we'll get into how to build them and what sets will and what sets won't. But the Ramchal is telling us right here in the first line, very important opening, he's going to be dealing with syllogisms that are true. Later on, he'll tell us all sorts of problems in making syllogisms. But right now, he wants to demonstrate which syllogism, how to build a correct syllogism, and that's what he's going to be talking about. Here's his explanation. And also, another very important point to bring out in this first line is that the two premises have to be true. So there's a need to prove both premises, and also to make sure that the conclusion is a valid conclusion from those two premises, because not every two premises will produce a valid conclusion. So those are the two requirements that we have to have in order for a syllogism to be true. The premises are true and the conclusion follows from the premises, because it's a valid syllogism. Perishel. Hahekesh hu hapula hashlishis sha'aseichel poel. It's the third pula. We spoke about concepts, and we spoke about putting concepts together in statements, and now we're going to be talking about putting statements together in syllogisms. So this is the third one. Vohu, and he says that his bonen davar mitoch davar. It's to understand something that's already inside something else. That's a very also interesting statement. A syllogism, when you're going to take two statements and build from it a third statement, that third statement is included in the first two statements. It's not something new, you just don't see it. So that's his monen davar mitoch davar. From within these two statements, we'll be able to discern a third statement, which is going to be the conclusion. V'hainu shemitoch muskal shekvar nitamet v'noda. Within a concept, an idea that we already know that's true, Yoli v'yichadesh acher nimshach behechlach min harishon, will be able to produce a michadesh, a conclusion that's forced from the first one. So it's new in the sense that we don't see it, but it's not new in the sense because it really is contained within the first statement. So we're going to be able to bring that out by understanding how these Hahigayon work. Now he's going to tell us what is the foundation of a Hekesh. How does it work? And he says like this: V'hine shorish Hekesh hu yedias ma shetachas hanose asher yadata noso. Now I broke this up. There's going to be three different aspects here. The first is ma shetachas hanose asher yadata noso, something that is, and we're going to be didactic in 1 second, tachas hanose, whose nasu'o you know. That means something that's included in the nose. O shia alav ve'erech hamin im sugo. Or it's going to be in the nose as a min, as a type in its class. O, the third possibility, shetachas nasu shel nasuecho. Or it could be something that is included in the predicate. Okay. So let's get what he's trying to say here. Here I have my little ABCs.
Here, just let's get the simple words first.
The simple words like this.
Tachas hanose means would mean that's categorical, and he's saying anything within that category of that nose.
Okay. Okay. Now this is the problem here. What's the difference between tachas hanose and alav? You see, those are the two key words that we have to.
Right.
Okay. So this one is easy because it says min im sugo. Okay. So if I say that all men have legs, and I identify a min in the sug of men called Ruvain, and I say Ruvain is a man, so then Ruvain has to have legs, correct?
Yep.
So that one is easy. To talk about the min, what is tachas? Now tachas I understood as ayin tachas ayin, where there's an equivalence between the subject, what we call a mamatzino, okay? Instead of saying it's a klal and prad, it's a mamatzino, like we said. We said like this. We said that Karen Karen pays us nesik shalom, okay? Now we say that be'ita, kicking, is equivalent to tachas, is equivalent to Karen. And therefore, we can derive that be'ita, kicking, is also chayav nezek shalom. So that's how I want to make the distinction between tachas and sugin minot. Okay? Rabbi Sakin, he mentioned there, has a different understanding of it. And as we say, I beg to differ with him. Okay? But that's how I understand. Tachas means it's an equivalent, like a memetzino. And sugin mino is the classic finding a prat in the cloud. That's how I understand it.
So you're saying a tachas is actually more similar to its to what it's tachas as opposed to a min and a sug?
It's
is it closer relationship?
I don't think it's closer. It's a different relationship. What does a mamatzinu say? A mamatzinu says that A is B. It doesn't say that here's A is B. A is B, but I could say C is A, which means that Be'it is equal to Karen. Now, Be'it is not a subcategory of Karen. Okay, you know what I'm saying? What does it mean? Karen is kavan lahazik. And Be'it is also kavan lahazik. So it's a mamatzinu. So it is a C. It's not. That's different than saying that there's a category of nezikin which all nezikin pay nesek shalom, and Karen is a nezikin, therefore Karen pays nesek shalom. There's a difference between saying that things are equivalent and things are equal to something else because it's a min of something else. It's you hear what I'm saying? The difference?
I think so.
When you make a mamatzina, what do? When you make a mamatzina, you say two subjects are together. So two subjects are equal. So what happens to one will happen to the other. They're equal. Why? As I said, that Karen has the quality of kavanah lahazik, okay, and kicking has the quality of kavanah lahazik. So therefore, kicking is equal to Karen. So if Karen pays nezek shalom, so kicking pays nezek shalom. Kicking is not a subcategory of Karen. Okay, it's something that's equivalent to Karen.
Okay.
But if I say a categorical statement like all men have legs, right? And then I say that Reuven is a man, so I'm saying the reason why I can make that hekesh is because he's a man in the sub man. No? You understand the difference?
Yeah.
That's how I understand. So when he says tachas, I learned tachas is something. It's an equivalence. It's not necessarily. It's not a categorical. It's not a prod in a category. A type in a category. Okay, it's an equivalence. That's how I understood
okay.
The word tachas. Now, Rabbi Sackman has a whole different understanding, which I spoke to him for a few hours about. But I think this is a much more elegant and simple way of understanding it. Okay? His is, okay, whatever. But I'm sure he wrote about it in that long introduction.
Yeah, well, it's very long. And it's hard to understand.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm not familiar with the terminology, so.
Yeah, I understand. And I don't...
Hagadama,
okay,
all these different...
yeah, all these things. Okay, well, it's not such a... Okay. Anyway, that's it. That's how I understand it. The things that are equal to the same thing have this. Two subjects that are equal have the same result, as opposed to one subject which is a subcategory of another subject will also have the same result.
Right.
That's how I understand the simple difference between tachas and el. And okay, the Seder. Okay. So here's the standard example of that. Okay. And that's what I wrote here. All A is B, as opposed to all C is A, and it means equivalent, and therefore all C is B. Okay? So in other words, it doesn't have to be an all statement, but it could be an all statement. But so here's my circles. I'm going to be using these circles to clarify things, and the colors may be a little bit confusing in a minute, but I'll explain them to you. I'm always using A as B, as A is going to be the subject, and B is going to be the predicate. Okay? So let me get my... okay? So when I say that all A, for instance, we're going to use categorical statements. All A is B. Okay? Now remember, all A is B doesn't tell me anything about B's relationship to A, except that some B's have to be in A, right?
Right.
You remember that?
Yes.
So that's why I leave it as a larger circle. But one thing we know for sure from that statement that all A is B is that all A is contained within B, and there's no A that's outside B.
Right.
That we know. Whether it's B is equal to A, we don't know. But so I left it a larger box just because we don't know. Okay? Now, once I tell you that C, I'm going to change the color here if I can. Okay. Can I change the color here?
I don't know.
Who knows? Probably can.
I never
It
tried
doesn't
it.
matter. Once I tell you that C is A, okay, meaning that it's included in A or equal to A, I don't care. But again, C is A. Will always, I don't know the relationship of A to C, but I know that C is within A, right? So if there's no C that's outside A, and there's no A that's outside B, so there can't be any C, I mean, it has to mean that, excuse me, let's do it again. All A is B, and all C is A. Therefore, all C is
B.
B,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Okay, that's all. That's clear. Okay. Erase the choice. Okay, fine. Now I made a distinction between is and a subcategory of A.
Right. Well,
Okay,
that's how
which is all A
you're
is B,
understanding
and
the
that's how
difference
I'm
between
understanding
right.
between the two. Fine. Now let's go to the third box. The third box does the same inclusive system, but does it with the nasu, with the predicate. Okay, well, let's try it out. All A is B, and here all B. Now we're talking about the B aspect of the statement, right? We're saying
Right.
all B is C, and therefore all A is C. Correct? Let's
Right.
look at the chart. All A is B. Well, that's the same thing we started out. A is contained within B. Now, if all B is C, the second blue arrow here, all B is C, so then A also has to be
See.
C. Okay?
Right.
Okay. So that's the basic concept. We have a statement, all A is B. Okay. Now I'm just going to tell you something that's included in A or included in B. Once it's included in A, it's going to have what A has, and once it's included in B, then it'll have what B has. That's the basic yesod of the whole business. Okay, that's the idea of the syllogism. A dava betoch dava. You can see it here. It's something that's inside something else. Once I say that C is inside A, so then of course C has to be a B. And once I say that C is inside B, then C has to be a B also. And that's really his yesod. That's the foundation of two statements which are going to be valid, which are going to work. If I can show you that it's included within it, that's the yesod. Okay?
Yeah. So for tachas the nasu shel nasachi, he doesn't have the other example,
Right.
or the other shoresh, which is be'erach haminim sugai.
Exactly.
Is that because a nasu doesn't normally have a min and a sug?
Yes, I believe that's true. All men, let's say, all men have legs. Now you could say that legs is a category too. You can fool around with that.
Right.
But normally it's not a category. It's an aspect. It's an aspect of something, not a category. Usually the subject is categorical, and the predicate is just an aspect of something.
Right.
Which is okay.
Right. So then what we're doing is we're saying that whatever in C, and whatever is exactly like that aspect, then something whatever is like that will be the same like the nasu.
Right. Let's say all men have legs. Right.
Right.
Now say something about legs.
So we're going to say all men have legs.
Legs have 10 toes.
Right.
Okay.
So it means that all men have 10 toes. Right. Right.
So it's really a very simple principle when he condenses it into these few words. But he said that's what's really happening. You just tell me something about A, then B's going to have it. If you tell me something about B, then in other words, if you tell me something about A, then that something is going to have what A has if it's included in A. And anything you tell me about B also, this new category, anything that you tell me about B, which is a C term, right? So then A has to have it. In other words, if I tell you all men have legs, so if I tell you that Reuben is a man, then he has to have legs. If I say all men have legs, legs have 10 toes, so all men have 10 toes. Okay? So it's not really as difficult as it sounds. I mean,
right.
As it says, it makes perfect sense. But again, in all these things, we're trying to bring what we do unconsciously to the conscious level. That's the whole activity here. Okay? And a lot of mistakes slip into the mind because things sound good. But they may sound good just because they rhyme, but they're not really valid. So he's trying to explain to us the basic ways that communication works so that we'll be able to see if we're saying something that's correct or not correct. Okay, so let's go a little deeper here. That's the basic principle, and now he's just really going to spell out all the details of that. Okay, so he says like this. He spells it out. What we just said. Kimash yuchlo tachas nosecho. Now, I call that nosecho here, just for example, 2C. Okay, why 2C? C is equal to or found in or said of. It's something that's found in A. Okay, whether it's a subcategory or function, doesn't matter. But anything that's included in the subject, excuse me, kima sheyuchal tachas nosoecha, anything that's a subcategory of your nosei, so you're telling that Ruvain is a man, he's a subcategory of man, okay, hine tadin behechach sheyipol bo nasu, that he has legs, shenofal b'nosecha. If I say all men have legs, and I say that Ruvain is a subclass of man, then Ruvain has to have legs. The in minohu, okay, 1 second. Now here it is where I believe also, my understanding is right, between tachas and yichol. The in minohu, if it's a min, so masha nofel besug yipol b'kol min mimeno. That's really the all men have legs. So if I say, the first example would be different. Let's say I say Yerushalayim is not Matama B'Nagoyim, right? And I say, here's the first example. Yerushalayim is not Matama B'Nagoyim. And then I say Yerushalayim is in Eretz Yisrael, right? So I know that there's a city in Eretz Yisrael that's not Matama B'Nagoyim, right?
Right.
Anything I tell you about that subject, Yerushalayim, will also not be Matama B'Nagoyim, right? I say Yerushalayim has, I don't know, 1 million people. So there's 1 million people there, not Matama B'Nagoyim, whatever. Okay? So that's I think this is a clarification of what's the difference between tachas and even better than what I said. I said it was an equivalent. But what equivalent means, it's anything that you can say about it, not necessarily that it's a prat. There's a difference by saying Yerushalayim is not Matama B'Nagoyim and saying that Ruvain is a man. One is talking about an aspect of Yerushalayim, and then I could tell you all the different things about you. Whatever I tell you about Yerushalayim, I know also it won't be Matama B'Nagoyim. And the other one is talking about a klal-prat relationship. That's really a better way of saying it. Okay? I hope that's clear.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you judge that's tachas nosech, equivalent to your nosei, will also have the result. In my original example, I said tachas meaning equivalent to. So if I learn it that way, so then if I say that Karen is equivalent to Be'ita, so if I could say Karen pays nezek shalom, the Be'ita pays nezek shalom. So I'm not saying that it's a min of it. I'm just saying it's equal to it. Okay, that's how I understand it. Okay. So there's two things. You're going to be equal to the subject. If you're equal to the subject, then you'll have what the subject in the original statement has, or you'll be a prat in the subject, and therefore you'll also have what the subject has, both ways. V'chein benasu, he says. Now here he says v'chein benasu, and he does not, here's his parashah. Look at his parashah. V'chein benasu, he says. Parashah. Kimash yuchlal. Nasu asher yadat hiyos benasuecha. Tigzor hiyos bo. Anything that is included in your predicate, whose subject you know, will also have what the subject you know has. Derech mashal, he says, to make it clear. Yadata shekol adam hu bal chai. You know that all men are animals. Kesheteda sheruvein nichlal adam kamin tachasugo. So teda behechra gam ruvein yeh bal chai. Since you know that all men are balchai, all men are animals, and Ruvain is a man, and Ruvain has to be an animal. Okay? So that was a question of something being nichlal in the subject. Now, here we can get some complicated ones. Now it becomes a little more, that's simple if we're just talking about all A is B, right? All A is B. But now we've got to get to some complicated ones. So we have some nice Visio charts. Okay, let's come out here. Omnam, yesh lehekishim drachim rabim. V'kulam shavim el haderech hazeh kishitisponen aleihem. There's a lot of different ways that we can put two statements together and make a hekesh. But he says they all really come down to my basic principle, which is if I find something equal to or within one part of the statement, then it's going to have what the other part of the statement has. That's the whole, I would call it the rule of inclusion. Okay, so now he's going to give us a few different examples of how that works. Okay, so again, I tried to keep my light blue and dark blue, shades of blue, subject and predicate, and then the third term, which is what we're trying to discover, is the Naseh. Okay, well, the Naseh depends. Here, let's see. That's how it works. Im Toma, Shum Adam Eino Shor. Okay, so here's my Adam over here. Okay, here's my Adam over here, and here's my shore. The light blue is the Adam, and the shore is the dark. So I know that these two circles are not connected. Shum Adam Eino Shor. Okay?
Right.
Now, here's instead of using an all statement, now we're going to use a some statement. He's a Baal Chai hu Adam. So here's all the Baal Chaim in the world. Okay? Here's all the Baal Chaim in the world. Okay, what happened? Okay, but only a part of those Baal Chaim, some of them happen to be men, right? Only some animals are men, or some living things, let's say better. Some living things are men, okay? So then it has to be that some living things, the green arrow, are not shvarim, are not oxen, correct?
Right.
Because, again, according to his beautiful principle of inclusion, since those some Balei Chaim are included in the circle of Adam, so whatever happens to Adam is going to happen to them. Correct?
Yes, so therefore, there are some Balei Chai that is not a shar. Right, okay.
That's correct.
Okay, got
Right?
it. Yep.
Beautiful. And that little function I discovered after hard work calling.
What?
To break up the circle.
Oh, to break up the circle like that. I was wondering how you did that.
I couldn't do it. And then I found it. I was very happy. I don't know if you should record that, but I was very happy I found that. It makes my life so much easier. Okay. It's called fraction or something. Anyway. Im Tomar Kol Medaber Adam and Shum Even Eino Adam. Okay? A little more complex over here. Now, now we're using an all statement.
Right, so Kol Medaber is Adam. Okay, so now
here's my blue. Kol Medaber, here we are, is Adam. Right? So here's, the Medabers are included in Adam. And now I know that there's no stone that's a man. So here's the stones on the left, and here's the bigger circle man. Oh boy, did I do that right? Yes, that's correct. There we are. The blue arrow. There's no stone that's a man.
Right.
Okay. So therefore, it can't be. It has to be that no speakers are stones. Okay. Because again, since the medabrim are found inside the man circle, and there's no Evan in the man circle, so whatever happens to the man circle has to happen to the Medaber circle. So since the man circle is not a stone, so the Medaber circle can't be a stone. Correct?
Right.
And that's it. There's this rule of inclusion. Once you want to get the chop, there's this rule of inclusion. Anything that's included inside is going to have the result, so then it all works out nicely. Now, what's the difference between the first statement and the second statement? If we notice here, the first statement had as its subject Adam, and the predicate in the second statement was Adam. Okay? That's what's called the middle term. He's going to explain that to us a little later on. He calls it the mashvet. Okay? That merely tells us really that the key point here is to realize that the Baal Chai, or at least the some Baal Chai that we're talking about, right, found its inclusion because of the statement of this middle term. In other words, we're saying that this some Baal Chai are included in the term Shum Adam. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the second part. The second part, the common term is in the predicate. Correct?
Yeah, so Kol Medaber is Adam. Shum Evan Ene Adam. So one is the Sholol, one is the the first one is Kol Medaber Adam is a call statement. How would you call it? That would be a right, and then the second one is
I don't know.
right. The second one is a Shum is a Sholol. That's a no stone.
Exactly.
Is not a person. So then we're going to come from there and say that Shum Medaber, there is no Medaber that is not a stone. Well, or in English it would say no Medaber is a stone.
Right. Okay, but there's a lot of things to recognize here. Both of these statements have a sholel in them. Both of these locations have a sholel in them, right?
Right.
The first one says Shum Adam Eino Shur, and the second one also has a sholel, Shum Evan Eino Adam.
Right.
What distinguishes the first one from the second one is one is a partial statement, Katsasi, and this one is a klali statement, right? But what I'm trying to point out here more, I know it's more important, but equally important, is where is the inclusion? You see, in the first statement we say Eza Baal Chai Hu Adam. So we had our subject Adam, the light blue subject Adam, and we included some Baal Chai in it, correct?
Right.
So the inclusion was in the subject. Is that correct? You know what I'm saying by an inclusion. We're saying that some Baal Chai is found in Adam. So I'm talking about the little broken off circle over here.
Right.
Correct?
Okay. Right.
So the inclusion was in the subject part of the statement. Now, since the subject's relationship to the shvarim, to the predicate, was that they're not connected, so those some Baal Chai are also not connected because
Right.
they're included in the subject.
Right.
Okay? Now, in the second statement, the inclusion is in the predicate. He says, Kol Medaber Adam, but he says, Shum Even Eino Adam. So, Kol Medaber Adam now became the predicate, right? Kol
Right.
Medaber, all speakers are man. Now we're going to tell you something about men. We're going to tell you that men are not stones.
Right.
So then what was included in man, that the Medabrim also won't be a stone.
Right.
Okay? So I'm just showing that the first one was the inclusiveness was in the subject, and then the second one, the inclusiveness was in the predicate.
Right.
Okay? All right. Let's get this one. Oh, this one is an exciting one. Okay, the charts help because first you see the principle of inclusion, and then you don't get lost in which is the subject and which is the predicate and how it works. Let's try this one. Kol medaber guf. Every speaker is a material being, and shum medaber eino ever. And no speaker is a stone. Okay, let's look how that works. We said that all medabrim are physical things. So here's our medabrim. Okay, and we're saying they're in the box of physical things. And again, we don't know how big that box of physical things are, but that's where they are. Okay? Now we're saying that no medaber, now that's a subject now, right? We're talking about the subject. right? We're talking about the medabrim. First we
Right.
said kol medabrim, they're inside the word, they're inside the goof. But the kol medabrim, they're not stones. So now we're talking about the medabrim
And stones are
and
two
telling you they're
separate.
not stones.
Right.
They're two separate things. So now we could say, and here's the exciting part, that there's some material things that are not stones.
Right.
Now we can't say anything more than that, right?
Right.
It could be maybe all of them are stones. That's a
Right.
possibility. But since we don't know the relationship between the dabrim and physical things, so we can't say anything more than at least some of them are.
Right.
With some of them, the medabrim, right? the goofing that are medabrim are definitely not stones, right? So there's got to be some material things that are not stones. Goofing. That's interesting. What does the word goof mean? Maybe it means bodies and not physical things, but stones.
Well, I was wondering if that's what I was going to ask you, because in his introduction he said that it has to be a true statement, and it comes out Eza
So
guf.
yeah.
Well, even if you say Eza guf eine eben, you say some gufim are not stones, that would imply that some gufim are stones, which is really not true, unless
No. Oh, that's also. You have to be careful there also. So first of all, I retract. Goof does not mean material things.
A guf means a physical body. It means a living body.
Goof means a physical body, a body.
Well, it has to be that way because kol medaber guf.
Yeah.
And this is before the days, and this is not talking about a tape recorder or a MP3 player.
Right. Well, I'll take the example. Okay. Well, that's not really a medaber. That's a tuki. That's just a key.
Right.
Medaber.
So a medaber is a
Well,
guf. So a guf is a living body.
Yeah, let's say body.
And so shum medaber eine even. And there is no medaber which is a stone. Now we're going to say, therefore, there are gufim.
There has to be some goofing.
There has to be some gufim which are not stones, because in the first statement, which is kol medaber guf, which is in the circle, you see you have all your dark blue, which are gufim, which are not medabrim. So therefore, we could say that there are some gufim which are not stones, which is true.
Who are they? Exactly. There has to be some. There has to be some, because we just told you that the medabrim are found inside the goof.
Right.
So some of them have to be not the stones. Since all the medabrim are goofim, so there's got to be something in the category of medabrim that are not stones.
Right, but you can't make an inference and say that there are some. So Eza gufim eine even, but you can't make an inference and say there are some gufim which are evans, which are avanim.
Now you bring up another important thing here, and I brought it up the last time. It's another important idea that if you don't get it, things get fuzzy again. Some means at least one. That's what some means, at least one. It could mean all, we never know, but it means at least one.
Right.
Okay? Some not means also at least one is not. So some always means at least one. Okay? It's not, and that's the distinction that we made between Hahigayon and in Tfunos. When I make a statement in Tfunos, in other words, there's a difference between talking about reality, let's say, how many marbles are in a bag. So I pull out one and I see that this one is black. So I say there has to be there had to have been, let's say, some black marbles in the back, because I don't know all. The minimum I could say is that there's got to be some marbles that were in the bag were black, because I don't know all. But if I do know all, then it's not right for me to say some. In other words, if I say, Kol Yisrael Yeshnam Chelek Olam Haba, so it's not right to say some, if the truth is all. So if I know the truth, so then the proper language says that I express it by saying all and not some. But here in this case, whenever I make a statement, all A is B, I never know the relationship of B to A. okay, as a muchlach inference. I never know.
Uh-huh.
It could be that all gufim are medabrim or some gufim are medabrim, okay? Sometimes it works out that all people with bris milah are Jews, and all Jews are people that have bris milah, okay? But if I say just circumcision, or all Jews are circumcised, right? And I don't mean bris milah, just circumcised. So then not all circumcised people are Jews. A lot of people have circumcision. They're not called bris milah, but they're circumcision. So I never know in any all statement the relationship. I know that all I can say is some biyazeh. That's called echrach. It could be that all biyazeh, but I can't say that. This is not muchlach. I know that there has to be some of them.
Right.
So when we're talking about some here also, we're telling you what has to be. There has to be some of them.
Right, but we don't know any further information. Right.
Yeah, we're not saying that not all. We're not saying not all. I just don't know. Maybe there is all. Maybe all gufim are medabrim. I don't know. Maybe in reality, probably all gufim are medabrim. Right? Everyone with a human body is a medabrim. Fine, but I just can't say that behechrach. That's the problem. So when I make these diyukim, I have to be very careful, and that's the other part of this exercise is to say how far can you go given two statements. Okay, in the other chapter we're talking about giving one statement, how far you can go. But here we're talking about how far you can go with two statements. Okay, so that is the third example. Now he says like this. Now his hope, but his chop is, and his chop. Other people do this is mechanically. You know what I mean? If I have four possibilities, all A is B, no A is B, some A is B, some A is not B. Right? Those are four possibilities of statements. You can't have any more. So, and if I have three terms, that means the two premises and conclusions. So they work out mathematically 4 to the factorial of 3. And there's 4 relationships that they can have also, because they can be common subjects and common predicates. They come out to 252 of them. Okay. Then they work out mathematically of the 252, how many of them work out to be correct. Okay. And there's all sorts of interesting things. I don't want to get into it. Mr. Aristo and the Rambam, they only talk about these 3 figures. And also the Ramchal only talks about these 3 figures. I'll explain to you a little bit. They don't talk about the reverse figure, and then they'll come out with a little more. But whatever it is, they figure out mathematically 19 possibilities that must work out of all the 256. But he says you don't have to. If you understand the principle behind it, then you can generate all the possibilities. If you just understand it, we're talking about the principle of inclusiveness. Then in your head you work it out. If just tell me what's included in the subject or the predicate, and once I know it's included in the subject or the predicate, so then whatever that subject or predicate's relationship to this third term is, that it'll have the same thing. Okay, and that's it. So he gives us the rule more than working out all the possibilities. It's not he doesn't want to. That would be, instead of doing it mechanically, he's doing it in svara. Okay, so he says like this: Hine roa. Well, now you can understand why you had a little problem understanding this last time. I spent a lot of time clarifying it. And I spent a lot of time clarifying it in my head also, because in Funos he just explains it very simply, the rule of inclusion, and he goes on. But here, since he spells out much more of the possibilities, then it requires that more thinking. So, Hine roa. When you see in these 3 examples, they all really get down to the same principle, the same manner in which I explained. Same principle. Kesheteda shishum even eno adam is another chap. When you know, and this was in the second example, Kesheteda shishum even eno adam, when you know that there's no man that's a stone. Excuse me, no stone that's a man. No stone that's a man,
right.
Reverse the order.
Right. Right.
So then, behechrach, you know the opposite is true.
Right.
Then you know that shum adam is eno evan, right? And since kol medaber is an adam, so then it has to be that kol medaber is not an evan, right? Since medaber is found in adam, and adam has nothing to do with evan, so then, okay. Now, here, oh, wow, I just noticed something beautiful. I just noticed what he did. Wow. Okay, I'm going to bring out what he did here. Because it's look, the first time through, I didn't copy it. My head has been in it, so I understand it. If you notice, what are the common terms here, the inclusive terms here? This is the middle term here was the subject and predicate in the first example.
Right.
That's why I made them blue. Right. In the second example, the predicate terms were the common term.
Right.
Right.
Right. And the third one, it was
this third example, the subject to the common.
Right.
And here, you notice it's the relationship is subject to predicate. Here, the relationship is really predicate to subject. But what he did, you see, what I'm saying subject to predicate is he really reversed these two terms. He didn't do the opposite term. He just reversed this term and he made it the same subject. He made it the same one as the first one. You know what I mean? Here, this was the same form as the first one. But the way he got it was by reversing this statement. If I would have said, Shum Eben Eino Adam, right? And then I would have said, Kol Medaber Adam.
Yeah, then you wouldn't have gotten there. Because you needed to be able to first, his point here is that you could reverse the subject and predicates when it comes to this type of logic.
Statement.
When you're saying that no stone is a man, you could reverse it and say that no man is a stone. And then once you know that, so now you have two pieces of information. No man is a stone, no stone is a man. Then when you say that a medaber is an adam, so you know that there is no medaber that's a stone. Because we know now that men and stones don't relate to each other.
Right. I take back what I said, by the way, because it wasn't what I thought.
Right.
You see, this is just the same. This is the same one as the first figure. What they do is they break down. I'm just going to mention it for further study. But Mr. Aristotle and also the Rambam. But the Rambam doesn't talk about these combinations at all in Hahigayon. Someone else added them. But when the medieval people got involved in Aristotle, so they said there's a fourth combination, which is instead of the subject-predicate relationship, it's the predicate-subject relationship. Okay, so they said there's four figures, not just three. We have three here. We have the subject-predicate relationship. Okay, the two predicate relationships and the two subject relationships. But the reverse of this, meaning the predicate-subject relationship, we don't have. So they added that, or they said it had to be there, and they have all sorts of problems. How come it was left out? The Kitzur, they just got up to a bigger figure. But anyway, we're talking about the principle. The principle is understood. The principle of inclusiveness. Okay? Did I put it here? So when the machine crashed, I had all this inside. So I'm just going to take one little more peek here, and then we'll go to the next safer. We'll stop here, but if I can do it quickly. Boy, so many things open here. Okay. Here we go. Okay. My memory's having a little bit of a problem.
What is that from? From the Rambam?
Yeah.
So I have it open. I found it while we were talking. What page? It's a very old print though, from Hebrew.
Yeah, that's that.
What page?
Oh, very good. Oh, you got it.
If you want.
That page, that's a good question. I'll tell you page 56. Here it is. Oh, it's even wrong.
Is this
It's
it?
even wrong. Yeah, this is it. Okay. It's on page 39. Page 39.
It only has 36 pages.
Well, page 37. Page 37, 38, maybe you don't have the same edition I have. Because
No.
that was not, the Rambam left this out. But the Kitzur, the Rambam left it out. But here, and I had put it in, oh, I see it behind there. No, it's not, you're not going to find it because it wasn't put in there. In the edition I have, someone put it in the edition, okay? But it doesn't matter. Maybe next week I'll bring it up when I reboot the machine, so I didn't say what I did, so it wasn't there. Anyway, they go through all the combinations, and it's just technical, really. Let's get back. It's really just technical. They go through all the combinations, and of the 256, they find only 24 are valid.
Uh-huh.
Okay? But when I first studied this thing, I made a little computer game. Someone made it for me with 256 possibilities, and you can just play and see if you can hop the ones that are valid, just to get your head together with it. But it's not important. I mean, it is important. Imagine if you understood all the statements in the Chumash, in the Tanakh, and in the Gemara, and you were able to put all these statements together and in syllogistic form, and then produce results which were meaningful. So I mean, when you just think about that, I mean, you see it's when they say the Yam HaTalmud, it's really the Yam HaChumash.
Right.
The Kodesh Baruch Hu made such a remarkable document that there's nothing like it in the universe. If someone wants to know if there's a God in the world, they have to learn Gemara. If you really understand what the Gemara is doing and the depth of information that's included in those few words, then it really is awesome in the real sense. It's really full of awe. I mean, when it's because we have Schottenstein translations and these books on the shelf, we think they're just books.
Right.
But it's a remarkable. It's a Pella. It's a Pella. That there's so much information encoded in so few words. I think I took the Chumash. I think it's 40 pages, 40 typewritten pages. The Chumash, and we add commentaries that's bigger. But everything that we learn, except for the Rabbanans, but it's all included in those words and those letters. And imagine the people that have not only this is just classical law, this is nothing. Imagine you have the Kala Kraten Klaus, and you have the Binyanams, and you have Kal V'Chomers. You have all that in your head.
Right.
You have all the Chomer in your head, and you're able to handle that. That's called a Tana.
Right.
Tonight,
Right.
when you learn, you see what they're doing. And they go, this is the Kal Kraten. You would have never saw the Kal Kraten Klaus, right? You don't know. But they saw their level of seeing the Torah was at that level, which is totally remarkable. I mean, it's awesome. So when you see this is another way just to see the godless of what we do. I mean, and we're just observers because we can't play the big game. I mean, you're gonna make your own cloud, problem cloud. Okay.
No. Right. Try to. It's hard enough just to understand. Right. To understand what
exactly.
What the logic
Just
that
to hold what they're doing. You know what I mean? The Reb Rodeo was showing the Shiva Chevron when we showed him this book. So anyway, one of the things. No, that's so sorry. One of my friends asked him, "How do you make a shir in Torah?" So he says, well, I see Tosfos's kasha, and I'll give an alternative teretz, and I explain why my teretz is not good. That's good as Tosfos. That was this year. Okay, but that's the humility. You have to know at what level you're handling on.
Right.
But still, what we're trying to do, at least whatever you say has to make sense, and that's very, very important. 2 and 2 has to equal 4. If it doesn't, then someone has to explain it to you. You know what I mean? Either you have to see someone, and if you see what are the Meforshim doing, they're just saying 2 and 2 doesn't equal 4, Obi. either
Right.
because of something internally or some contradiction from some other place. And then the beauty is not only seeing the contradiction, but able to give a Torah teretz. You see, but not every solution is called a das Torah.
Right. Right.
So that's another level. I mean, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, right, picked up his 10 fingers. He never said he got an from the world. I mean, these are big levels. Anyway, but Baruch Hashem, we're going to stop here. Maybe we'll just take a few minutes there and do that next section. Okay. But in Baruch Hashem, we clarified this very important part, at least to understand the concept of inclusiveness. That's the most important thing. With that rule, whatever you say, the relationship of subject and predicate, whatever I include in either the subject and predicate will have the opposite relationship, correct?
Right.
And that's really, it doesn't matter if it's an all, some particular, yes, no. As long as I know the first relationship, and I'm sure that my second statement is included inside one of those subject and predicate terms, then it has to have the same relationship. Okay? All right. Let's stop here, and we'll do a few minutes of